if it finds the right platform.
Time lapse right now.
Even in the middle of a hot war.
The Vietnam War looked to me like a loser. I was a Cold Warrior, but it didn't seem to me that that was the place to plant our flag.
Daniel Ellsberg, a senior Pentagon analyst, has just returned from his second tour in Vietnam.
I felt that the bombing was hopeless, it was outrageous, it was criminal, and I was part of that.
Despite his grave doubts about the war, Ellsberg begins work on a top-secret project for the Defense Secretary.
The Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, wants to figure out how we got into Vietnam. Now, he should have known, since he was there through the most critical years, but he wants a history. And a multi-volume history is written.
Ellsberg discovers shocking information about America's long involvement in Vietnam.
I had in my safe 7,000 pages of documents of lies and murder, broken treaties, broken promises, 47 volumes of history of U.S. decision-making.
He wants to share these secret files with Congress in hopes of ending the war. So Ellsberg crosses the line from critic to criminal with a little help from technology.
No, but no, you can't see anything.
I couldn't have thought of doing this before the invention of Xerox.
Kyra, Gavin has it set up in a time lapse.
This was a very slow process.
What does that mean?
And went on night
Please put it back
after night. Just as Chelsea Manning or Ed Snowden could not have done the hundreds of thousands of pages
This is me now,
without digital
just right now.
technology.
When Congress doesn't
Gavin,
have
I know
those
what I'm
papers,
doing.
Ellsberg does something no one in history has done before. He leaks thousands of pages of secret documents to the New York Times.
Here it was right in front of us. This is the whole secret story of the war. I couldn't believe it. The government had been lying to us flat out, and here was the evidence. It was exclusive.
It's a big deal. The Pentagon Papers was the largest release of classified material ever in the history of the American press.
Furious, President Nixon gets personally involved.
We've got to keep our eye on the main ball. The main ball is Ellsberg. We got to get this son of a bitch.
Before they do, Ellsberg turns himself in.
I can no longer cooperate in concealing this information from the American public.
Claiming national security is at stake, the White House sues the Times to stop it from publishing.
The stakes could not have been higher here. You have the President of the United States pursuing this leaker and pursuing the newspaper editors. This was a First Amendment battle for the ages.
The Supreme Court met today to hear the case of the United States of America versus the New York Times and the Washington Post.
This really was a break with the tradition that the press in America in wartime followed the government and the government's lead.
The Times wins. Ellsberg is vindicated.
The papers are published widely, with no apparent damage to national security. And it turns out, a single voice can be the spark that ignites a wildfire.
For people like me who were born around that time period, our heroes were people who were uncovering secrets. It was Daniel Ellsberg. It was people who were shaking their fist at the man.
Nowadays, I'm often seen as the good guy in comparison to Ed Snowden or Chelsea Manning, who are called traitors. But unless you're willing to be called names like that, you really cannot do your duty of telling the truth to the public.
There's a direct line from the Pentagon Papers all the way through WikiLeaks, this sort of concern about the activities of the U.S. government. Why are we engaged in these conflicts and how are we behaving in these places?
The Ellsberg affair is an important lesson for young Generation X. Our right to learn the truth of what the government does in secret is more powerful than its desire to keep those secrets from us. That tension will never be far off as Generation X continues.
I think it landed last Tuesday. 1 second it's there, then whoosh, it's gone. I swear I saw it swallow 7 people. 7. I just wish one of those people could have been Mrs. Johnson. Trust me, we're dealing with a higher intelligence here.
The all-new Audi Q7 is here.
My house too! My bed, my squeaky toy! My goodness! Is that smoky meaty tasty? Bacon? You like bacon? I do backflips of bacon! Then make me like
U.S. dogs do the crazy things they do? Megan.
Because bacon!
Yeah, I know how to do
You probably say it a million times a day. But at Cigna, we want to help everyone say it once a year. Cigna medical plans cover 100% of your in-network annual checkup. So America, let's go, know, and take control of your health. Cigna, together, all the way.
Now you can create your own tour of Italy at Olive Garden, starting at $12.99. Choose 3 of 10 favorites to enjoy on one plate, plus unlimited salad and breadsticks. The best tour of Italy is the one you create at Olive Garden.
Hey, America, tired of mindless candidate arguments? Looking for something a little smarter? Then exercise your right to choose something better and take the high road with a new episode of Brain Games. This week, we'll explore the signs of lust and greed, and we'll do it without shouting, calling,
What are you doing?
exposing
I'm not
the
even
cover
close
up.
to you.
Don't dumb it down
Under your
and
mouth.
dodge
It's
the
not in your mouth.
questions.
It's not
Take
even
a look at all 3 faces. Tell me who you're most drawn to.
Brain Games, new episode Sunday at 9 on National Geographic.
Young Generation X is learning all about gaps. Generation gaps, missile gaps, and now, credibility gaps. It's a lot to think about. Maybe we should just relax and go to the movies. It's 1979, and the atomic age is ready for its close-up.
We're going to focus on nuclear power.
The China Syndrome features Jane Fonda, Jack Lemmon, and Michael Douglas. But this is the real star, a nuclear power plant. And it's about time, too.
Let's start by meeting Dr. Atom.
For decades, nuclear power had been getting reviews that were nothing short of, well, glowing.
The idea was that nuclear would be really clean and have a very small environmental impact.
But as the movie shows, nuclear technology can quickly spin out of control.
You have a serious condition. You get everybody into safety areas and make sure that they stay there.
A reactor overheats and melts down. It's the China Syndrome.
What? It melts right down through the bottom of the plant, theoretically to China, render an area the size of Pennsylvania practically uninhabitable.
Unbelievably, just 2 weeks after this movie opens, an area of Pennsylvania is almost rendered uninhabitable.
My husband said, "Come on out and smell the air." My nose and my mouth felt like I was eating or tasting or breathing metal.
It happened about 4 o'clock this morning.
Radioactive steam escaped into the air.
The 3 Mile Island nuclear plant outside Harrisburg begins to melt down.
I remember being young and thinking that this place looks just like a scene out of a Godzilla movie.
And just like in the movie, the truth becomes an early casualty.
Both the company and the government say the situation is stable, but disagree on vital facts.
Stable? That's not how it looked to some officials in Washington.
We knew that it was the most serious event that had ever occurred in the United States.
There is the potential of explosion with widespread radiation.
Sirens started to go off, and all of a sudden church bells were ringing, and I felt like I was in a world war.
It's a war against an invisible and potentially deadly enemy.
It's a lot worse than what they're telling us. Typical lies.
And since no one can see how hot the reactor's core is, some ideas worthy of Kubrick get proposed.
I was asked to come down to the White House and brief the president's aides. At the end of the meeting, the president's science advisor put me aside and said, "Have we thought of sending in terminal cancer patients?"
No, we have not. And the core is cooled down, barely averting a full-out disaster.
I personally think that the crisis is over, if you want to refer to it as that.
Yeah, we do. We almost melted Pennsylvania. It becomes clear to Gen X that the nuclear industry, just like the military or the government, would rather keep its truth secret, as Saturday Night Live's parody demonstrates.
Sometime yesterday afternoon, we experienced what we like to call a surprise.
I will tomorrow.
And, well, we had to release some radioactive steam.
I think if you grew up in that era,
you can't help but have some vestigial sort of emotional reaction when you hear about a nuclear power plant.
Okay.
I get the creeps every time.
You're done.
And
So
it's
we're
a
gonna
question, why do we
let's
have
do
to
a
even have
smiley
these
face
things
on the
anyway?
ends.
Generation X learns that
We're gonna do a little
peace
video.
can be just as dangerous
Just do our
as
own
atoms
smiley
for
face
war.
again. So
Either
I'll
way,
do
it
mine
can end
first.
very badly.
We're just doing a little teeny one because then I'm gonna show you guys what
In the 80s, Cold War tensions are so high, it
we're gonna
seems
do.
like it's only a
We're gonna
matter of
pretend like our
time
faces aren't
before a
human.
bomb really
We're gonna
does
put
go
our
off.
hands above the pillow and do like a little game.
A
with
point
a
driven home to
video
Generation
recording.
X, thanks
And
to
then we're
this
gonna
TV
go-
movie.
then we're gonna-
100
wait,
million
that
people
wasn't
watched
our
this.
faces are
I think it was the highest rated TV movie of all time.
Wait, that wasn't right.
The day after shows